Just because you make a counteroffer doesn't mean you'll get what you're asking for. So prepare yourself mentally to possibly have to either accept the initial offer or walk away. But if you do indeed feel like a counteroffer is the way to go, here is how to handle it. Number one, you should negotiate the counteroffer directly with the recruiter, not the hiring manager. Now, that doesn't mean the hiring manager is not going to see the counteroffer. But what I mean by that is, as far as the back and forth discussion about it, that should be done with the recruiter. The recruiter will ultimately have to get the hiring manager's approval for any new offer terms, but the back and forth, again, should be done through the recruiter. So to kick things off, send the recruiter and the hiring manager. So copy the hiring manager on the email. And if the HR business partner was also a part of the offer email, copy him or her as well. So to kick things off, send all of those individuals an email expressing thanks for the offer you've received. And say that you'd like to take a day or two to look over the offer terms and get back to them with your thoughts. After you've had a chance to review the offer in its entirety, put together a list of bullet points outlining where the gaps are in the offer and what your counteroffer terms will include. Next, send an email to just the recruiter asking for a brief call to discuss the offer. When you get on the call with the recruiter, again, express your appreciation for the offer you received, but let him or her know that you have a couple of concerns with some of the offer terms, and you would like their advice and guidance as it relates to possibly submitting a counteroffer. Then walk them through your counteroffer bullet points. Now, while you're doing this, take the pulse of the recruiter during the conversation to determine whether or not your counteroffer points will be well received by the company and or the hiring manager. If you got a good feeling from the discussion with the recruiter, tell him or her that you plan on sending an email to the hiring manager, copying the recruiter, containing your formal counteroffer and a summary of why you're asking for what you're asking for. Now keep the following in mind: benefits, PTO, annual bonus, and sales commissions are usually set in stone and are not negotiable. You don't know how many times I've had people come during the offer process, especially director and above, who typically I will handle those offers myself. They think they can negotiate time off or benefits, and it's just not the case. Companies have strict policies around those things, and they don't really have a good mechanism for adjusting those things for one person versus the other. So they're usually set in stone. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is you should have a valid reason for asking for whatever you're asking for in the counter offer. It can't just be because you feel you should make more money. You need to justify it on paper. Hence that email that I said you're going to send back. So good reasons for asking for an increased hourly rate or base salary include things like you're looking for a minimum of 15% increase over your current salary, and the current offer doesn't satisfy that. Or your bonus percentage is decreasing, so you would like to offset this with a higher salary. Or based on the responsibilities of the role, the complexity of the upcoming projects, or other work requirements, you feel that the offer should be at a higher salary to account for this. Next, let's discuss good reasons for asking for a sign-on bonus. So one reason to ask for a sign-on bonus is if they were unable to meet your base salary expectations. And so in order to offset a lower base salary, you can say, hey, I have valid reasons for why I felt like the base salary should have been, X amount. If we're unable to come to that, potentially a sign-on bonus in the range of X could make up for that and allow me to feel better about accepting the role. Now, again, if the recruiter has told you that the base salary cannot move, that's when you potentially counter with a sign-on bonus to offset the base salary. But if the recruiter hadn't said that the base salary is set in stone or something, before asking for a sign-on bonus to offset the base salary, you should counter with a higher base salary. The next reason why you might be asking for a sign-on bonus is to make up for lost bonuses due to leaving your current company before bonus payouts have occurred. So if you think about it, most companies will pay bonuses on an annual basis, and therefore they usually pay them in March or April of the year after you've worked to earn the bonus. And a lot of them have policies that say you must still be with the company at the time bonuses are paid in order to get your bonus. So imagine if you left the company in July, that means you've worked January through June, and you're going to walk away from those 6 months of bonus potential. So companies will often write a signing bonus in order to make up for the 6 months or 8 months of bonus that you wouldn't get because you wouldn't get those months of service at the new company. So that's a valid reason to ask for a sign-on bonus. Another reason to ask for a sign-on bonus is to make up for a lost retention bonus. Now, what's a retention bonus? Oftentimes companies will say, hey, we really appreciate the work you're doing here. Maybe we haven't been having the greatest year, so, bonuses may be down this year. Well, if you stick it out with us and stay with us through August, there's a little bit of a pot of gold waiting for you in August. We're willing to give you a $25,000 retention bonus for persevering through the tough times. And so if you decide to leave that organization who has dangled a retention bonus and you leave before the bonus is paid, you could say to the new company, hey, I have a retention bonus on the table, and I'd like, to see if we can offset that with a sign-on bonus because I'd be walking away from that. And many companies will accommodate that. The other reason would be, to ask for a sign-on bonus could be to offset a required bonus payback. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say you relocated to join a company, and that's the company you're working for, and maybe they had a 2-year clawback clause that said if you leave in less than 2 years, you owe us back, whatever the relocation amount was on a prorated basis, right? Well, if that's the case, you could ask the new company, hey, I have to pay back a reload bonus if I leave now. Is there any way you can offer a sign-on bonus to help me offset that? The other reason would be that even if you didn't get a relocation bonus, maybe you got a sign-on bonus to join the company you currently work for. And if that's the case, again, it often comes with a clawback clause of at least 12 months, sometimes 2 years, that say, hey, we gave you a $30,000 sign-on. You're obligated to work here for the next 2 years, or else you've got to pay us that back on a prorated basis. So again, you may have to produce some documentation that proves that was in your offer letter, but most companies would take you for your word for it. But that's a valid reason. Now, another reason to potentially ask for a sign-on bonus is simply to sweeten the offer and make it worth your while to take the job. I mean, especially if you have other competing offers, right? You don't have to be shy about it. You can say to the recruiter and the hiring manager, hey, I really like your company and really love this role and think I can add value. But just in full transparency, right? In my attempt to find my next home, I've been talking to 2 or 3 other companies, and one of those companies have extended me an offer. It's a very competitive offer compared to yours. Is there any way you can offer a sign-on bonus or something to sweeten the offer? I'd really like to take your offer, but right now their offer is either a little better or whatever the case may be. And companies don't like to lose out to other companies. And so again, it all depends on the level of position you're interviewing for, right? The more senior the role, the more room they have to negotiate, and the more willing they are probably to negotiate and offer a sign-on bonus. Again, if you're talking about a $50K job, the company's not going to come way up to compete with another offer. I mean, they might move up $2,000 to $3,000 or something, but that's about it, as I said earlier. So you've just got to play that by ear and, act accordingly. And then finally, the last reason that you might ask for a sign-on bonus is if the company is requiring that you relocate for the position, but is unwilling to offer a full relocation package. If that's the case, then ask for a sign-on bonus of 15 to 25K to assist you in the move. And companies will often do this. Now, usually this is going to be for a manager level role or above, or potentially a highly paid technical role or individual contributor role. But you have the right to ask for a sign-on bonus if they're not willing to offer a full relocation package. And if you're interviewing for a manager and above position, right, especially one that pays 150K or more, and the position requires you to relocate for the job, you should ask for a full relocation package as part of the offer. Now, the recruiter will likely have told you early on in the process whether the position requires relocation and whether the company plans on offering a reload package. So you should know this early on. It should not be a surprise whether reload is a part of the equation for you. One note about a relocation package, right? So in case you've never dealt with these, a full relocation package is pretty robust, and it usually includes movers, packing, and shipping your household goods, the shipment of 1 or 2 cars. Usually it's 2 cars because they know you probably have a spouse potentially or a partner, and you may have more than 1 car in the household. It will also, oftentimes include realtor assistance on the sale and purchase of a house. It could include temporary lodging allowance during the move, as well as money for incidentals and other unexpected costs like setting up utilities, etc. I've received 2 full relocation packages over the course of my career, and they are amazing if you can get them. Finally, what about stock? Now, if you're interviewing with a publicly traded company and you feel that your position level warrants stock, or if your research has shown that the company normally offers stock to employees, ask the recruiter early on whether stock is a possibility. Based on their answer, you should determine whether stock should be a part of negotiations. A former recruiter on one of my previous teams recently joined Walmart as an individual contributor recruiter, and he was offered stock. So you never know. Now, if you're interviewing for a VP level position or higher, you will likely have stock included in your offer. If you're interviewing with a private company or an early stage startup company, you should definitely ask about stock. The answer may be no, but if you can get stock at one of these companies, you could stand to make a ton of money over time. I help frustrated job seekers successfully navigate the job search and interview process.